It's 2026, you are a .NET developer, and today you're going to let an AI write code for you. You start small, like build me a simple CRUD API with Entity Framework core. You barely finish typing in the sentence, and 5 minutes later, it's done and it runs. So you push it. Add logging, validation, authentication, caching, all these things that used to take you days, sometimes even weeks to set up by hand. It adds all of them in minutes. And by the end of the day, it's built around 80% of a full app and it all runs. 80% in just a single afternoon, and then it hits you. The same thought every developer is having right now. Is it really over for me? No, it's not over. The AI didn't replace you today. It just did the typing part, and typing was never the hard part. Now, maybe you have heard it 100 times already. AI is not going to replace developers. So instead of repeating it, let me show you exactly why. Because the moment the code finishes, the hard questions start to arise. Did it actually get it right? Is it ready for real users? Will it hold up under traffic? Are there security holes that you would never notice? So look closer at that 80% that AI has built you. And here is a part people get wrong. The problem isn't that the AI is dumb. It's the opposite. It's smart enough to make 100 decisions for you in seconds and sounds completely confident doing it. But it makes them blind. It doesn't know you will have a million users next year. It doesn't know your data is regulated. It doesn't know about the three other systems that this has to talk to. So it gives you a clean, reasonable answer to a generic problem when what you needed was the right answer for your problem. It caches data that actually changes by the second. It picks a data access design that's perfect for 1,000 records with no idea that you might be heading towards a 50 million other records. It all looks perfect on the surface. Whether it's actually the perfect call for your situation, that's something the AI can't anticipate. That's the hard 20%, and that part is still yours. Here's what that looks in practice. Let's ask the AI to build a login system, and that's what you actually get, a generic, one size fit all version. But if you know exactly what you're doing, if you know the requirements and who is going to use it, you will ask for something completely different. JWT authentication with short lived access tokens, refresh tokens that rotate, and secrets stored safely. Same AI, same 5 minutes, but this time you get something you could actually ship. The difference wasn't the AI, it's knowing what to ask for. That's the whole game now. The AI writes the code. You are the one who decides whether it's any good. You own the thinking, the trade offs, and every line that ships with your name on it. And unlike typing, that's something you can actually learn. It's exactly what this roadmap is going to teach you. The hard 20%. How to design a system that holds as it grows, how to get the security right, how to make your app fast under real load, how to understand the trade offs that AI can't decide for you, because AI is only as good as the developer using it. And that's exactly who you are going to become. So here is how to use this roadmap. 11 steps, each one building on the last, from your very first line of code all the way up to a senior engineer. This is going to be completely built around ASP.NET Core. If you're already a senior developer, pay close attention to step 7. Most people rush right past it, but it's that one that quietly makes everything else stronger, and getting it right can take your whole career to the next level. So let's start at the beginning. Step 1, the fundamentals. In the AI era, this is a layer that everyone wants to skip. Why learn the basics when the AI writes them for you? Because you can't catch a mistake in code if you don't actually understand it. It starts with the language, C sharp, and how it thinks in objects and in types. You learn object oriented programming, the way almost all C sharp code is organized. You learn data structures, which is really just choosing the right way to store the data. Remember the design the AI got wrong at 50 million records? This is exactly what gets you right. And you learn Git and GitHub, which tracks every change on your code. None of this is flashy, but it's the ground everything else stands on. Get it right, and you're ready to build. Step 2. Now we put the language to work with .NET and ASP.NET Core. You start with .NET SDK and the command line, the tools that build and run everything you make. You learn LinkQ, which lets you filter and shape data in one clean line of C sharp instead of 20. You learn to handle exceptions so a single error gets caught instead of taking your entire app down. You learn to read and write files, and then you step into ASP.NET Core, the framework you will live in for the rest of this roadmap. You learn routing, how a web address finds the right piece of your code, and middleware, the series of steps every request runs through on its way in and out. This is where your code stops being practice and starts being a real web app. There's just one problem. It can't remember anything yet. So next, you give it memory. Step 3, your app needs to remember things, and that means a database. In .NET, the main way you talk to database is Entity Framework Core. So instead of writing raw SQL, you write normal C# classes and link you, and EF Core turns them into database commands for you. Your DB context is the gateway to it all. Migrations let you change the database safely as your app grows. Query filters apply a rule like only show this user's data automatically on every query. And interceptors let you watch and shape what EF Core does under the hood. But this is where your judgment matters the most. EF Core makes it easy to write a query that looks fine and quietly fires 1,000 database calls or scans a huge table with no index. And trust me on this, AI is going to write all these mistakes confidently without blinking. So you learn how the data is really loaded, when to pull related records in one go, when to add an index, and when to drop down to raw SQL or a tool like Dapper for the parts that have to be fast. Get this right, and your app can finally handle real data. Now it's time to let the outside world reach it. Step 4. An API is how your app talks to the outside world. Other apps, your own front end, mobile clients, they all reach your code through it. In ASP.NET Core, you have two ways to build one: controllers, the classic structured approach, and minimal endpoints, which is a lighter and faster way to define your routes. You learn when each one fits and the basic rules of REST that every API should follow. You document your API with Open API, which is a standard description that other tools can read and put a clean interactive UI on top, for example, Scalar, so anyone can explore and test your endpoint in seconds. And then you learn the one rule that saves careers. Never trust what comes in. Validate everything, because the moment you take raw input on faith, someone sends you something that they shouldn't. For these kind of input validations for your API, it's recommended to use packages like Fluent Validation. Step 5, security. Do you remember talking about login from the start of this video? This is exactly where you will learn to build it properly. It comes down to two words: authentication, which proves who you are, and authorization, which defines what you're allowed to do. For authentication, you will have to learn ASP.NET Core Identity, the built-in system for managing users and passwords. You will learn JWT, which are the tokens that let your API recognize a logged in user. Next, the API keys for when other systems needs to access into your system. Also, single sign-on so people can log in with an account they already have. Then authorization decides what they can do once they are inside. Roles for the basics, policies for even more complex rules, and claims, which has the details carried inside each token. This is one layer that you can't fake, and one that AI is most vulnerable on. It'll hand you something that looks secure and passes the demo with a hole you would never catch until someone else does. Get this wrong and nothing else that you built matters. Get it right and your front door is locked. But locked isn't same as production ready. And getting there takes a whole layer of work which most people skip. Step 6. Your app works and it's secure. Now you make it production grade. These are the cross-cutting concerns, the parts that touch your whole app instead of any single feature. None of them will show up in a demo, and all of them will matter the day real users will arrive. So you start adding them in. Serilog gives you proper logging, so when something breaks at 3 in the morning, you can trace exactly what happened. For traces and metrics, you will have to learn OpenTelemetry, which lets you see inside a running system instead of guessing. Health checks keep an eye on your app and flag trouble early. Fluent validation will stop bad data from ever getting inside your system. A caching layer means you're not asking the database the same question again and again for 1,000 more times. And background jobs handle the slow stuff, like sending an email or processing a file without making your users wait. This is the layer every real system runs on. Your app is solid now, but as it keeps growing, all these pieces need a structure to live in, or the whole thing slowly turns into a mess. Quick pause before we go further. Everything we have covered so far, the data, the APIs, the security, the production pieces, is exactly what I teach hands-on in my free .NET Web API course, Zero to Hero. Over 130 lessons, and all of it is completely free. So if you want to actually build all of this, not just hear about it, the link is in the description. Go check it out and then come back, because this next step is where it really gets good. Step 7. This is the one I really want you to focus on. Architecture. This is a step that turns you from a junior into a senior. Until now, you have been making code work. Architecture is much bigger than that. It's the shape of the whole system, how you split it up, how the pieces talk to each other, and what's cheap to change later versus painfully expensive. And it's one decision that AI cannot make for you because it depends completely on your requirements, your domain, your customer base, and your scale, none of which the AI can anticipate. You should learn the main architecture options and their trade offs. A monolith, one single app. A modular monolith, one app split into clean, independent modules. And finally, microservices, which are many small services running on their own. Most people assume that microservices are the grown up answer. Actually, they aren't. For a simple CRUD application without much domain complexity, a plain monolith is just fine. Don't overthink it. But for most of the systems, like 99% of it, the sweet spot is the modular monolith built with clean architecture in mind, and inside each module, a feature-based vertical slice architecture. This way, you will get all the benefits of microservices with just a fraction of the pain. I almost never reach out for microservices upfront. Only when one module is getting hammered with traffic or genuinely needs to scale on its own, I extract that particular module into a microservice and let it scale. Because microservices actually look cool and beautiful on paper and comes with a mountain of operational overhead in real life. Getting this call right is what makes you a senior. It's the step I promised would make everything else stronger. Because once you can choose the right shape for a system, every other skill on this roadmap clicks into place. So you have designed your application well, you have secured it, it's now production grade. But how do you know it actually works? And how do you keep it working while you and the AI keeps changing it? That's our step 8, which is testing. A test is just a code that checks your code, so you never break something that used to work. You learn unit testing, which checks the small pieces on their own. Integration tests, which ensure that all pieces work together against a real database, cache, all spun up just for the test with test containers instead of a fake one. And tools like Playwright, which drive your actual UI like a real user clicking through it. And here's where the AI stops being a risk and becomes a real superpower. Testing is mostly volume, and volume is exactly AI is great at. You bring the judgment, deciding every scenario and edge cases that needs to be covered. It writes the tests. I do this constantly. One of my own projects, the Full Stack Hero .NET Starter Kit, claudecode wrote over 1500 tests just in a few hours. All from me telling it what to cover, the exact scenarios that I need to make sure these are bulletproof. 1500 tests, which ensures that the entire application is stable. And now, the moment any change breaks something, you know instantly because a test would have failed in your CI CD pipeline. Your app works and it stays working. Time to get it in front of real people. Step 9. The code on your laptop helps no one. This is how it gets into the world reliably again and again. You start with Docker, which packages your app so that it runs exactly the same on your machine, your teammates, and on any random server. That alone kills the oldest excuse in software world. Well, it works on my machine. Docker Compose runs the whole stack together, and .NET Aspire, which I really want you guys to focus, it takes you further. It spins up your app, your database, your cache, all within a single command. Plus, it also shows a unified dashboard to watch it all live. From here, you can monitor the stacks, the traces, the logs, and basically the entire application. So if you master this part, it changes how fast you build every single day. Then comes the real team workflow. Git, GitHub, and Azure DevOps if that's what your company runs on. You build CI/CD pipelines so every push gets built, tested, and deployed automatically with no late night manual releases. You deploy to AWS or Azure and define that whole cloud setup as code with Terraform so it's repeatable instead of pile of buttons someone once clicked. And you keep your environments clean with dev, staging, and production separated and their secrets where they belong. This is the difference between writing software and actually running it. Step 10. Now we have come the full circle. Remember the AI from the start of this video, the one that made you wonder if you were finished? This is where you turn it into the most powerful tool you ever used. Because the last 9 steps were all building up to this one. The developers getting incredible results with AI aren't the ones typing, build me an app and hoping. They are the ones who know exactly what they want and can direct the AI straight to it. So here's how I exactly work. My daily driver is claudecode on the Opus models for most of my thinking and execution, but I almost never just ask it to write code. First, I brainstorm the requirements with it back and forth until we agree on exactly what we're building. Then I have it write down as specifications into an markdown file. And only when I'm completely satisfied and happy with the specification do I ask Claude Code to implement it. Done this way, it gets the implementation almost perfect almost every single time. That's the real skill, understanding context so that AI knows what it actually is working with. Prompt engineering is also very important, so you ask it in a way that it gets always the right answer. Even building your own custom skills so it works the way you work. And none of it is possible without the knowledge from the last 9 steps because that's what lets you brainstorm a real specification and know when the AI nailed it. This is what leveraging AI actually means. Step 11, and this is the one that never ends. Because .NET ships a new version every year, the tools keep changing and AI is rewriting how all of it works in real time. This roadmap doesn't have a finish line, it's just a direction. So the final skill isn't a framework, it's a habit. Stop just collecting tutorials and start building real things. The kind of projects that force you to make the decisions we have talked about. Put them where people can see it. Follow how the ecosystem moves. Read code that's better than yours. Because in a field that is changing this fast, the thing that keeps you valuable isn't what you know today. It's how quickly you can adapt, how quickly you can learn that you will need tomorrow. And that, more than anything, is the one thing AI can never do it for you. So, is it really over for you? No, it never was. The AI just made the easy 80% free for everyone, which means the only thing left worth paying for is the hard 20%. And that hard 20 is everything you just saw in this roadmap. Every layer that you actually understand is one more thing the AI can't do without you. That's not a checklist of skills, it's your edge. So don't try to outtype the machine, outthink it. Start at step 1, build something real, and become the developer that AI works for. One last thing. If you want to actually learn everything on this roadmap, I built a complete .NET Web API course, Zero to Hero. Over 130 lessons taking you from the very basics all the way to production. And all of this is completely free. The link is in the description, so go and join. I'll see you in the next one.